Senator Hunt, you're recognized to open on your motion.
Thank you, Mr. Lieutenant Governor. And to my friend, Senator Howard, I don't intend to return your bill to select. I just wanted to take a little bit of time here, and I'll be withdrawing this motion. Last night, Senator McAllister and his wife, Deb, very kindly invited me and several other senators to join them at Abraham's Tent, which is a celebration of the Tri-Faith Initiative, which is a campus in Omaha with a Muslim mosque, a Christian church, and a Jewish temple, all on the same campus together. And that's made up of congregations of these three Abrahamic faiths, and they're all committed to practicing respect and acceptance and trust with each other. This is the first undertaking of its kind in the country, and I believe in the world. And I just had a really great time last night with Senator Lathrop and Senator DeBoer, Senator Kavanaugh, Senator Pansing-Brooks, and many of our friends in celebrating the mission of acceptance and respect with these people of all different faiths. I was so dismayed, and not surprised, but very dismayed by the news of another heartbreaking synagogue shooting on Saturday, especially on the last day of Passover. My colleagues know I have not made a secret of the fact that I'm not a person of faith, but of course I believe in the right to worship in peace and safety, and that that right belongs to everybody, and that right was disturbed again this weekend. Our Muslim brothers and sisters were attacked in New Zealand at a mosque during Friday prayer. Our Catholic brothers and sisters were attacked in Sri Lanka at Easter Mass. Our Jewish brothers and sisters were attacked in San Diego at a synagogue on Passover. So this continues to be a problem. This is not a problem just facing underrepresented groups. This is facing all of us. And as people in a position of power, we have got to decide what we're going to do about that. The rise of white nationalism and white supremacy in the United States is a reminder of how far we have to be willing to go in the struggle for freedom, and a reminder that nobody has an excuse to stay silent. There are people living today for whom life under fascism was a reality. Many of those people are refugees, who are immigrants, who are people who faced persecution in their home countries, who are trying to come here for a better life. But a lot of these people are also Americans who suffer today under the fascism of neo-Nazism and white supremacy, people who are followed out of their mosques by people carrying guns, people who fear going to temple because of the threat of gun violence that just continues to grow. It continues to become more realistic. People who are targeted because of the color of their skin or because of the faith that they practice. White supremacist terror attacks are the leading terror attacks in the United States, but the men who commit these atrocities are not monitored, they're not taken seriously by the FBI until it's too late. Poway Synagogue, white supremacist. Christ Church Mosque, white supremacist. Tree of Life Synagogue, white supremacist. Mother Emanuel AME Church, white supremacist. Oak Creek Sikh Temple, white supremacist. Islamic Center of Quebec City, white supremacist. All of these murders committed with assault-style rifles. There are also hate groups in Nebraska that we need to be aware of as a body, as a legislative body. These are recognized by the Southern Poverty Law Center. ACOC, which is racist skinheads, Great Millstone, Proud Boys, the Daily Stormer, Third Reich Books, National Socialist German Workers' Party, Global Faith Institute, Mission to Israel. These are all hate groups that are recognized by the Southern Poverty Law Center that we need to know about in our own state here in Nebraska. Our nation's epidemic of white supremacy and gun violence is killing people. It's killing people. And people in positions of power need to agree on that, and we need to decide collectively what we're going to do, not through, doing a little game with our motions and standing up on the mic and saying something about it, but what are we going to do through policy changes to combat that? From the city council level to the school board level to state legislatures to Congress, legislators have got to see themselves. We have to stop seeing ourselves as separate from the problem and decide what we're going to do collectively about it, because activists alone can't solve this. People, doing the best to support the people in their own communities can't solve this alone. Good guys with a gun can't solve this. Vigilantes can't solve this. A wholesale cultural shift needs to occur, including a firm and vocal, bright line drawn rejecting white supremacy. The victims of these shootings, these hate crimes, are reminders of our violent history in the United States, and we are witnesses today to our violent present in the United States. We are witnesses, but we cannot also be bystanders. As Americans, those of you who are people of faith, elected officials, people who just want to be good people, we need to show courage whenever freedom is in danger, because eventually the time comes to act, and you're living in it now. This is the time to act. So please decide what you're going to do about protecting liberty and justice for all, and then do a little bit more. It's like training for a marathon. You're out of breath, you think you can't work anymore, and in these times, you have to push yourself a little bit harder. We all need to go through some conditioning, and we all need to be a little bit stronger and have more courage in speaking out against this. We are a nation in perpetual grief. We are a nation that needs to reckon with its future. All Nebraskans can agree, all Americans can agree that gun violence needs to stop, and thoughts and prayers are not enough. And I stand, and I hope my colleagues stand with me, with victims and survivors, and against the gun lobby and the NRA determining policy in Nebraska by putting their thumb on the scale. This is not a partisan thing. This cannot be a both sides thing. Many sides are not responsible for the violence, hate, and tragic deaths that are on the rise in this country. We need leaders to stand against the gun lobby and not only condemn, but take actions against this rise in hateful, targeted violence. Institutionalized white supremacy does not care about your intentions. It doesn't care if you mean well. It doesn't care what you hold in your heart. If you have animosity for people, if you have racism in your soul, if you have prejudice against people of other faiths, all white supremacy sees is participation in these systems and complicity in these systems. And I want you all to think about how and if you have been a passive participant in these systems, how you can unlearn your biases that you've learned throughout your life, a lot of which you might not be responsible for learning, but you are responsible for unlearning. Look at what is driving religious hatred in this country. Question whether your votes here contribute to that. Question whether you've done enough to speak out about it. Not in your heart, not in your mind, not in your prayers before bedtime, but out loud when it counts. So I invite you to stand up and speak out against injustices, against these forces that divide us, that don't unite us. We say that we're a culture that protects our children, we're a culture that protects life, but when we fail to protect people from violence, from the effects of trauma, from media personalities who prey on these tragedies for ratings, we're failing to stand up for life. We're standing to stand up for what's right. 70% of all Americans agree that we need stronger gun safety laws. This does not have to be a partisan issue, and we need to take some common sense steps toward that end. I've been very preoccupied with this weekend with some personal things in my life that I'm struggling with, and preparing for a lot of bills that are coming up with this week, plus minding my own business about the job that I have to keep on the side in order to do this work. But I'll be bringing a legislative resolution against white supremacy similar to the one that was passed by both the House of Representatives and the US Senate. And that's something that I hope all of you will consider signing on to say that in the meantime, while we work on policy that addresses this in meaningful ways, we can do something symbolic as a state to say to these victims that we stand in solidarity with you, that we see you, that your lives matter, and that we are committed as a body to protecting you. Thank you, Mr. Lieutenant Governor.